Welcome to today's Explainer. We're stepping onto the pitch to uncover one of the absolute most fascinating areas of modern football. Look, if you've been watching the top European leagues lately, you already know that elite coaches, guys like Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, Xabi Alonso, Roberto De Zerbi, they're completely revolutionizing the game. We're moving way beyond the traditional way of looking at a match, and we're going to dive deep into the brilliant tactical minds that are fundamentally changing how this sport is actually played.
There's this famous coaching adage that perfectly captures what we're talking about. It goes, the best teams don't just move the ball, they move people. And honestly, that's exactly what this explainer is going to do for you today. It's going to completely shift your mindset. We're going to train your eyes to stop just tracking the ball and start watching for spatial dominance. Because at the highest levels of the game, creating space is literally just as important as putting the ball in the back of the net. So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the illusion of formations. Then we'll get into the fullback revolution, tackle the art of rotation, break down pitch geometry and space, and finally, look at rolls over positions. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, the illusion of formations.
I'm just going to expose a massive secret right out of the gate here. That starting formation you see on your TV graphic right at kickoff, yeah, it's basically a lie. Think about 20 years ago. If you were a right midfielder, you hugged the right touchline. You stayed in your fixed position. But today, a team might line up on a traditional 4-3-3 when they don't have the ball, but the second they win possession, that shape morphs entirely. Players shift, slide, push forward, completely altering the structure into this highly aggressive 3-2-5. Same exact players on the pitch, totally different shape. And that right there is what we call a fluid formation. Moving on to Section 2, the fullback revolution. To really understand how specific player roles have evolved to create all of this modern fluidity, we have to look at one of the biggest tactical innovations in modern football. You know, traditionally, a fullback's job was pretty straightforward. Stay wide, defend the flanks, maybe overlap the winger every now and then. But an inverted fullback, they do something completely different. During build-up play, they actually abandon that wide channel and drift right into central midfield. So what's the point of that, right? Well, by moving a defender into midfield, a team creates this immediate numerical superiority right where it matters the absolute most, the center of the pitch. They instantly gain an extra midfielder. That gives them way more control of the game, vastly better passing options to circulate the ball, and it makes keeping possession infinitely easier. Plus, if they do happen to lose the ball, having that extra body centrally offers fantastic protection against those lightning-fast counterattacks. And building on that idea, the false fullback takes this tactical flexibility even a step further. It's not just about stepping into midfield anymore. A false fullback adapts on the fly to exactly what that specific phase of play requires. Sometimes, yeah, they become that extra midfielder, but other times they might stay wide like a traditional fullback just to stretch the pitch. Or they might drop back in to become a third center back. Basically, they're the ultimate tactical chameleon for a manager. Which brings us to Section 3, the art of rotation. Now that we have a handle on how individual roles have evolved, what actually happens when whole units of players move together? Well, positional rotation is when players fluidly exchange places on the pitch. By swapping positions organically like this, the attacking team forces the defending players to make impossible split-second decisions. Put yourself in the defender's shoes for a second. Do I follow my man and leave my zone entirely? Or do I stay in my zone and just let a new attacker run free? That tiny split-second moment of hesitation and confusion, that is exactly what creates valuable space to attack. When you systematically break down a simultaneous front three rotation, it looks a bit like a highly choreographed dance. First, the striker drifts out wide, which pulls a center back completely out of position. Second, the winger immediately darts inside to exploit that newly opened central space. And finally, the attacking midfielder surges forward to join the front line. I mean, it creates absolute chaos for a defensive unit that's just trying to maintain a rigid line. Seriously, imagine being a defender trying to track this kind of positional interchange in real time. The number 8 moves wide, so the winger cuts inside, which immediately triggers the fullback to overlap on the outside. The end result? Everyone ends up filling someone else's space. The attacking team keeps its perfect structural balance, but they completely and utterly scramble the defensive shape of the opposition. When it's executed correctly, it is absolute poetry in motion.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, pitch geometry and space. Let's pull back for a second and look at the macro view of the pitch.
Elite coaches don't just look at players, they literally look at the geometry of the game and how they can manipulate space. You'll often hear analysts talk about things like the 5 vertical lanes or the half spaces. Now, I know that sounds like complex tactical jargon, but asking this one question, why do teams obsess over occupying all 5 of these lanes? It completely reveals the core spatial strategy of the modern game. The reason is actually incredibly simple. The pitch is divided into wide areas, half spaces, and the central area. If an attacking team occupies all 5 of those vertical lanes simultaneously, they stretch the defense horizontally to its absolute breaking point. But if you leave even one of those lanes empty, you're making it far too easy for the defending team to just shift over, become incredibly compact, and be virtually impossible to break down.
And to dominate those lanes, your shape is literally everything. For years and years, all we heard about were passing triangles. Triangles, triangles, triangles. But today, diamonds are the new gold standard. A diamond structure around the player with the ball provides multiple passing angles, vastly better support, and it makes ball circulation lightning fast. If you watch a top-tier side closely, you're going to constantly see these diamond shapes forming and reforming all over the pitch. Now here's a concept that truly separates the good from the great. Rest, attack. You've probably heard of rest defense, setting up your defensive shape while you still have the ball. Well, rest attack is positioning specific players high and wide, even during really slow possession phases. Instead of having everyone crowd around the ball to help pass, these players deliberately stay away, holding their aggressive positions. They are actively preparing for the next phase of the attack before the current one is even finished. It's brilliant. Which leads us perfectly into our final section, Section 5, Roles over Positions. To bring all these fluid concepts together for the ultimate paradigm shift, you've really got to remember this. Modern football is about functions, not labels. We have to stop obsessing over where a player is supposedly positioned on the team sheet. The label of left back or winger is practically meaningless now compared to the actual function that player is being asked to perform on the pitch. Try keeping a personal analyst checklist in your head. The very next time you watch a match, don't ask yourself, where's the left back? Instead, ask, what role is the left back playing right now? Are they operating as an inverted midfielder to give their team numerical superiority? Are they a central playmaker, a traditional defender, or are they just an extra passing option to complete one of those diamonds we talked about? Try to identify their actual function in real time.
And that leads us to our final thought for today. The next time you see a defender standing smack in the middle of the pitch, ask yourself, is this a mistake or is it a tactical instruction? Because in today's game of fluid formations and constant positional rotations, there's a really good chance they're standing exactly where the coach wants them to be. But it begs an even bigger question. If roles continue to completely erase traditional positions, are we heading toward a future where strikers and defenders don't even exist at all, replaced entirely by 11 universal footballers? Keep asking those kinds of questions, and you will always see the game through the eyes of an elite analyst. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to look beyond the scoreline.